I was the one who booked the hotel. I used my savings, every last coin I had, because I thought, maybe if I did something nice for them, they'd treat me like family again. We hadn't gone on a family trip in years. Everyone was always busy, always distant. But this time I saw an opportunity. My brother's kids were on school break. My sister had finally taken leave from work. And Mom, she had been talking about visiting the mountains for months. So I made it happen. I called the hotel. I booked 3 rooms, all next to each other. I chose the one with a view for Mom. I picked the one closest to the elevator for my sister, because she always complains about walking. I even remembered my brother's coffee obsession, and made sure his room had a machine. And I paid for it all. I didn't ask them for money. I didn't even tell them I was covering the whole thing. I just wanted them to enjoy it, to feel special. And maybe, for once, make me feel like I mattered. But from the moment we arrived at the hotel, something felt off. My sister was on her phone, texting someone, barely speaking to me. My brother was annoyed about the parking. And my mom, she smiled at the staff but not at me. I rolled their suitcases, handled the check-in, even gave tips to the bellboy. And still no one said thank you. We reached the rooms, and my brother made a joke. Wow, the old lady finally did something useful. They all laughed. I stood there, pretending to smile. Pretending it didn't hurt. That night, I ordered room service for everyone. I picked their favorite dishes, just like I used to do when we were kids. No one noticed. My niece spilled soda on the blanket, and instead of apologizing, my sister blamed me for not watching her. Like I was some kind of maid. Later, I heard them talking in the hallway. She's just lonely. Let her do her thing, my sister whispered. She just wants attention, my brother replied. I mean, good for her. At least she paid for her own room this time, someone added, laughing. They didn't know I had paid for all 3 rooms. They didn't know I had taken out part of my retirement savings to give them this weekend. I stood behind the door, frozen. My hands shook. My chest felt tight. I wanted to scream. I did it for you. But I stayed quiet. At breakfast, I sat alone at the far end of the restaurant. They had gone down before me, taken their seats, and filled their plates, like I wasn't even part of them. When I joined them, there were no chairs left. No one moved to make space. I stood there, holding my tray, smiling like a fool, trying to pretend it didn't hurt. One of the waiters noticed, and pulled a chair from the corner. He was kinder than my own family. Thanks, I whispered, blinking back tears. I watched them laugh about something on my sister's phone. A meme or a video, I don't know. They didn't show me. It was like I was invisible. At one point my niece asked, "Why is she always sitting with us?" That one broke me. I had raised her when my sister was in the hospital. I had fed her, bathed her, stayed up with her when she had nightmares. And now she looked at me like I was a stranger. I didn't say anything. I just smiled. The next few hours passed in silence. They went sightseeing. I stayed behind, said I was tired. Truth was, I just didn't want to be around them anymore. Not when they treated me like this. I sat in the hotel lobby, next to the fireplace, watching people check in and out. Families laughing. Couples holding hands. Kids jumping around. And me, just sitting there completely alone. A staff member asked if I was okay. I nodded, lied. But inside, I felt like something inside me had cracked. This was supposed to be a special weekend. A memory we could all cherish. Instead, I felt like an outsider in the family I built with my own 2 hands. That night, they came back late. Laughing loud, showing each other selfies. No one asked where I had been. No one noticed I hadn't eaten. They walked into their rooms and shut their doors without even looking at me. I stood in the hallway, in front of my door, holding my key. But my hand wouldn't move. I just stood there, staring at the closed doors. And for the first time, I didn't feel sad. I felt clear. I wasn't going to beg for love. Not anymore. I paid for everything. I did everything. And they still treated me like I didn't exist. Maybe it was time to remind them who I really was. The next morning, I woke up early. I hadn't slept much, maybe 2 hours at most. My eyes were swollen, my body ached, and my chest still felt heavy from last night. But I got up anyway. Something inside me told me to move. not to wait around for them anymore. I took a shower, got dressed, and sat on the edge of the hotel bed, just thinking. I thought about all the times I had been there for them. Birthday cakes I baked. Bills I helped pay. Nights I stayed up with sick kids. All the years I showed up, again and again, without asking for anything. And still, they acted like I didn't belong. A knock on the door broke my thoughts. It was my niece. She looked surprised to see me awake. "We're going to breakfast. You coming?" she asked, like it was just another normal day. I nodded and followed her down, even though my stomach was empty and my heart even emptier. In the restaurant, the same thing happened again. They sat together. I sat alone. I watched them eat, laugh, joke about things I wasn't part of. They didn't even notice that I hadn't touched my food. That's when I knew for sure. I wasn't part of this family anymore. Not really. Not where it mattered. After breakfast, we were supposed to go on a boat ride, something I had planned weeks in advance. I had found a good deal, booked it for all of them, and even arranged a surprise snack basket for the kids. But when we got to the lobby, everything changed. My sister was arguing with her husband on the phone. My brother was checking his watch and complaining about the heat. My mother, well, she was too busy asking the receptionist if there was a better restaurant nearby. No one remembered the boat ride. No one even asked me if I still wanted to go. Then suddenly my brother looked at his watch again and said, "We're going shopping. We'll be back before dinner." Before I could say a word, they started walking out. My sister turned around and said, "You can come if you want, but we'll be walking a lot." And then they left. Just like that. I stood in the middle of the lobby, holding my little shoulder bag, like someone who had just been dropped off and forgotten. No one waited for me. No one looked back. They disappeared through the hotel doors into the crowd, leaving me alone again. I didn't cry. Not this time. I just sat down on one of the leather chairs by the window and stared outside, watching the city move on without me. There were couples holding hands, children running around with balloons, tourists laughing and taking selfies. And I was sitting alone in a hotel lobby I had paid for, watching strangers live the kind of happiness I thought I'd get to feel too. The receptionist behind the desk looked at me. I could tell he wanted to ask if I was okay, but he didn't. Maybe he thought I was just another tired traveler. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app. I started writing down all the things I had done for them. Not to guilt them, but to remind myself I wasn't imagining it. Paid for 3 rooms. Paid for gas during the drive. Booked boat tickets. Packed snacks for the kids. Ordered their favorite foods. Booked massage for mom. Bought sunscreen and toiletries for everyone. Line by line, I listed every small kindness. Every detail I remembered. By the time I finished, I was crying, not because I was sad, but because I finally saw it clearly. It wasn't just one bad weekend. It had been years of being invisible, of being useful, but never loved. That afternoon, I stayed in the lobby for hours. No one called to check where I was. No one texted. Not even once. Around 3 p.m., I got up and walked around the block by myself. I bought a small pastry and sat on a bench in the park behind the hotel. There was a couple feeding birds. An old man playing a flute. It was peaceful, and so painfully quiet. I thought about going home early. Just calling a taxi, packing my things and leaving. But then something inside me stopped me. Why should I leave? Why should I run? I had paid for everything. The rooms, the food, the experiences. They were the ones who abandoned me. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop trying to be part of something that never wanted me, and start taking care of myself. That evening, around 6 p.m., I returned to the hotel. They were all sitting in the lobby now, chatting about their shopping bags, showing each other what they bought. They didn't even look up when I walked in. I heard my brother say, "I thought she went to her room." And my sister replied, "She probably went off sulking again. Let her." Then they laughed. Right in front of me. I walked past them quietly, pretending not to hear. But every word sank like a knife. I went up to my room, closed the door, and sat on the bed. My phone buzzed. A message from my niece. "Dinner in 20. Don't take too long." That was it. No, how are you? No, we missed you. Just an order. I stared at the screen, then at my reflection in the mirror across the room. I looked tired, older than I remembered. But there was something else in my eyes, something that hadn't been there before. Strength. A quiet strength I had forgotten I had. I stood up, fixed my hair, and reached for my purse. Not to go to dinner, but to go downstairs to the reception desk. If they wanted to forget about me, that was fine. But they were about to remember exactly who paid the bill. Dinner time came. I didn't go. I stayed in my room with the lights off, sitting near the window, watching the night sky slowly darken. Down below, I could see people walking along the hotel driveway. Happy, loud, full of life. I used to love nights like this on family trips. The laughing, the inside jokes, the late night tea. But this time was different. This time, I wasn't part of it. From the thin walls of my room, I could hear the sounds of their laughter coming from the other rooms. My brother making jokes. My sister giggling. My mother humming as she unpacked her shopping bags. None of them knocked on my door. None of them asked where I was. They just forgot me. And honestly, that silence hurt more than anything they had ever said. I sat with that pain for a while. Let it wash over me. Let myself feel every bit of it. Then I stood up. I walked to the mirror. My eyes were puffy, my cheeks hollow. I looked older, but stronger. I had done everything for this family. Gave them love, time, money, care. And all I got in return was silence. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to hurt anyone. But I wanted them to know how it felt, just for once, to be forgotten, to be left out, to be invisible. So I took out the folded envelope from my purse. The one with the hotel booking confirmation and the receipt. My name was printed clearly at the top. All 3 rooms. All 3 nights. Fully paid in advance by me. I tucked the envelope under my arm and quietly opened my room door. The hallway was silent. I stepped out slowly barefoot, not wanting to make any noise. Their rooms were next to mine, doors shut, lights off. They were probably already asleep, full from dinner, cozy in the beds I paid for. I walked past their doors without stopping. Down the hallway. Past the elevator. To the lobby. The hotel was calm at night. Quiet music played near the bar. A few guests were checking in. 2 employees stood behind the reception desk. One of them looked up and smiled when he saw me. "Good evening, ma'am. Is everything okay?" he asked gently. I took a breath. Then I nodded. "Yes. I need to make a change to the booking. Can we talk privately?" He led me to a small side counter, away from the other guests. I pulled out the envelope and placed it in front of him. "My name is here. I paid for all 3 rooms, room 307, 308, and 309. I want to cancel the last night, but only for 2 of them." He looked at me confused. "Only 2. I nodded. "Keep room 307 under my name. Cancel the other 2, 308 and 309. He hesitated. "They're still occupied." "I know. Cancel them anyway. I'm checking out my guests early. I'll be covering any penalty." He looked at me again, this time more carefully. I think he understood something wasn't right. But he didn't ask. He just nodded respectfully and began typing. "I'll process that right away, ma'am." I stood there watching him as he clicked through the computer. I saw the guest status for both rooms change from occupied to pending checkout. Then to checkout confirmed. "Done," he said. "The rooms will be released tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. "Perfect," I replied softly. He printed a new copy of the bill. It had only 1 room on it now. Room 307. My room. I signed it. And just like that, they were no longer under my name. They still thought they were guests at the hotel, still sleeping peacefully upstairs. But they had no idea. Tomorrow morning, they'd be asked to leave. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel cruel. I felt free. I thanked the receptionist, turned around, and walked slowly back to the elevator. As I waited for the lift to come down, I looked around the empty lobby one last time. It felt different now, like I finally existed in the story, not just as a background character. When I returned to my room, I didn't cry. I changed into my pajamas, brushed my hair, and turned off the lights. Then I climbed into bed, wrapped myself in the blanket, and stared at the ceiling. I imagined their faces the next morning. The confusion, the questions, the moment they realized I was the one who made this trip happen. That I was the one who gave them this gift. And that I had quietly taken it away. Not out of anger, but because I couldn't keep begging to be seen. Somewhere around 2 a.m., I finally fell asleep. And for the first time since the trip began, I didn't feel like I was carrying the whole world on my back. The sunlight peeked through the curtains. Birds chirped somewhere outside. The city was waking up slowly, but I was already awake. I had been lying in bed for an hour, staring at the ceiling, waiting, thinking. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't scared. I was just ready. I got up, took a long warm shower, dressed neatly, and packed my bag. I checked every drawer, every pocket, made sure I wasn't leaving anything behind. Room 307 looked so calm, untouched. Like it didn't carry all the pain of the last 3 days. I walked to the window and opened the curtain. From up here, I could see the street, the cafe across the road, the small fruit shop at the corner. And for the first time in days, I smiled. Not because something funny happened, but because I felt light. Like I had finally let go of everything I'd been carrying for years. At exactly 8:55 a.m., I rolled my small suitcase out of the room and stepped into the hallway. Everything was silent. I passed by room 308, then room 309. No sound from inside. They were still sleeping, just like always, while I handled everything for them. I took the elevator down and arrived at the front desk at 9:02 a.m. The same receptionist from the night before was there. He nodded at me respectfully. "Good morning, ma'am," he said. I nodded back. "You can let them know now," I said softly. He didn't say anything. Just made a quick call. Then I walked over to the cafe corner in the lobby and sat by the window with a cup of tea. I wanted to be there. I wanted to see them come down. Not to hurt them, but to watch the moment they realized the truth. At 9:13 a.m., I saw the elevator doors open. My brother stepped out first, still sleepy, in sandals and a t-shirt. My sister followed, confused, holding her purse, then my mom looking upset. They walked up to the front desk. I watched as the receptionist explained that their rooms had been checked out. "What do you mean checked out?" My brother asked loudly. "Your rooms were under a single reservation. The guest who booked them requested early checkout. You were supposed to leave by 9 a.m., the receptionist said politely. "I didn't check out," my sister snapped. "No, ma'am. It was checked out by the guest who paid for your stay." Their faces changed. My mother leaned forward. "Who paid for it?" The receptionist glanced at me across the lobby, then looked back at them. "Miss Amara," he said quietly. "She booked and paid for all 3 rooms." They all froze. My sister turned around and spotted me sitting in the cafe, sipping my tea. My brother looked confused. My mom just stared. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I just sat there, calmly, peacefully, like someone who no longer owed them anything. They walked over quickly. "Wait, you booked the rooms?" my sister asked, still in shock. I looked up at her. "Yes, I did." My brother frowned. "You paid for everything?" I nodded. They looked at each other, trying to process it. Trying to remember all the things they said. The jokes. The whispers behind my back. The times they ignored me. They remembered. I stood up slowly. "You treated me like a shadow," I said softly. "Like I was just tagging along. But I made this trip happen. I wanted to give us a memory. A moment. Something real." My mom looked guilty. Her lips trembled. "Why didn't you tell us?" she asked. "Would it have changed anything?" I replied. "Would you have treated me better?" No one answered. I picked up my bag. "The rooms are canceled. The rest of your stay is gone. You'll have to book your own now. Or go home." My sister stepped forward. "Amara, you didn't have to." "But I did." I cut her off. "Because it's the only way you'd ever see me." My brother tried to speak, but words wouldn't come out. I didn't wait for them to apologize. I didn't need their tears. I had already cried enough. I turned around and walked out of the hotel lobby. Through the same door they had walked out of yesterday, without looking back. This time, I was the one who didn't look back. Outside, the morning air was fresh. The sky was clear. I walked slowly toward the taxi stand, pulling my small suitcase behind me. As I rode away in the cab, I felt something shift in my chest. It wasn't just about the hotel or the trip. It was about years of feeling invisible, of trying so hard to be part of something that didn't see me. I had finally let it go. That afternoon, I reached home, made myself a warm meal, and played my favorite old song. I smiled to myself. I didn't need a family vacation to prove my worth. I didn't need their approval to feel seen. I knew who I was. I had always known. They just forgot. And now, they will never forget again.